It was one of those nights that felt too safe to end in disaster. The kind where the air smells like roasted garlic and the candles flicker just right, wrapping the apartment in that soft, amber calm. Hannah and I were halfway through a bottle of red, our favorite, the one we always said we'd save for something special but never did. We talked about everything and nothing, laughing until my cheeks hurt. For a while, it felt like college again, just us, the world small and warm. I had no idea that night would change everything. Then she got quiet. Not her usual kind of quiet, the one that means she's thinking. This one was heavier. She fiddled with her glass, eyes fixed on the wine swirling inside it. "Liv," she said finally, her voice shaking a little, "there's something I need to tell you, and I need you not to hate me." My stomach tightened. "Hate you? What are you talking about?" I tried to sound light, but something inside me already knew I wasn't going to like what came next. "I've been seeing someone," she said, "and I think it's getting serious." My heart actually lifted for her. She deserved love after the string of bad luck she'd had. "That's amazing. Who is he?" I asked, smiling. But she didn't smile back. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. "His name is Daniel." The sound of it hit me like a slap. "Daniel Collins?" I said, the words barely making it out. Hannah's eyes went wide. "Wait, you know him?" And all I could manage was, "He's the man I live with." The silence that followed didn't feel real. It was the kind of silence that hums, loud and suffocating, like the air itself doesn't know what to do. Hannah froze, her face pale, her hands trembling around the stem of her glass. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Liv, I didn't know." He told me he was single, that he'd just gotten out of something messy. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. My whole body went cold, every heartbeat too heavy to bear. "He's still in something messy," I finally said, my voice flat. "With me." She covered her mouth, her eyes filling with tears. "I swear, Liv, I would never..." But I couldn't hear the rest. My mind was spinning backward through time, connecting the dots I'd ignored. The nights he worked late, the sudden distance. The perfume I thought was from a client. 4 months, she said. That was exactly when he started needing space. My hands began to shake, and I couldn't tell if it was rage or heartbreak taking over. Maybe both. I grabbed my phone, opened his messages, part of me praying to be wrong, but there it was. Her nickname. Leah. I scrolled down and saw his words. "You're the only one who makes me feel alive." My throat burned, my chest ached, but something inside me hardened. I looked at her, really looked, and said, "He played both of us." She nodded through tears, whispering, "What are you going to do?" I took a long, shaky breath. "If he wanted 2 women," I said, "then maybe we should let him have both, at the same time." Hannah stared at me, eyes wide with disbelief, as if she wasn't sure whether I was serious or just broken. Maybe I wasn't sure either. The truth had cracked something inside me, but it also lit a strange, steady fire. I felt every nerve in my body awaken. The betrayal hurt like hell, but beneath that pain, there was clarity. For once, I wasn't going to cry myself to sleep or wait for apologies that would never mean anything. I was going to act. She reached for my hand, tears still falling. "Liv, I never wanted to hurt you." I nodded slowly. "I know, but he did." My voice didn't shake anymore. There was something grounding about facing the storm head-on, about realizing the enemy wasn't the woman across from me, but the man who had lied to us both. "So," I said, looking straight at her, "we can either fall apart, or we can turn this around." Her hand squeezed mine, hesitant but resolute. "What do you have in mind?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. That night, our friendship changed shape. It became something sharper, stronger, like 2 edges of the same blade. The wine sat forgotten on the table, the candles burning low as we began to plot. Every word was fueled by disbelief, anger, and a strange, mutual respect. The plan wasn't fully formed yet, but I could feel it taking root. I didn't know what revenge would look like, but I knew one thing for sure. Daniel Collins wasn't going to sleep easy again. The next morning, I woke up with that heavy feeling, the kind that doesn't fade with coffee or sunlight. My mind replayed Hannah's face, her shaking hands, the way the truth had bled out of her like a confession she couldn't hold in anymore. She came over again. No makeup, eyes red and swollen. We sat on opposite sides of my couch, both staring at the same spot on the rug, too numb to speak. The air felt thick, heavy with the weight of everything unspoken. Finally, she broke the silence. "I swear I didn't know," she said, her voice cracking. "He told me he was single, that he'd just gotten out of something messy." I let out a bitter laugh, one that didn't sound like me. "He's still in something messy," I said quietly. "With me." The look on her face, pure horror, almost made me want to comfort her. Almost. But anger pulsed beneath my skin, electric and raw. "When did it start?" I asked, my words sharp, almost rehearsed. She hesitated, counting backwards. "About 4 months ago," she said softly. 4 months. That's when everything fell into place. The late nights, the business dinners, the new cologne I didn't buy. I felt my hands start to tremble as I scrolled through my phone again, through all those meaningless texts that had felt like love. Then I saw them, messages from Leah. His words leapt off the screen. "You're the only one who makes me feel alive." My heart didn't break this time. It hardened. I turned the screen toward her, my voice cold. "He played us both," I said. "But he's not getting away with it." Hannah looked shattered, her eyes wide as if seeing a version of the world she didn't recognize. "Oh my God, Liv, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I thought he was honest with me. I believed everything." I could almost hear her heart breaking, and in some twisted way it mirrored mine. "He was good at it," I said quietly. "That's what makes him dangerous." The words tasted bitter on my tongue. I wanted to feel pity for her, but what I really felt was exhaustion, like all the air had been sucked out of my life. She kept talking, trying to fill the silence, trying to make sense of something senseless. "He said he wasn't ready to move in with anyone again," she said, wiping her eyes. I almost laughed. Move in with anyone again? He was still sleeping in my bed, cooking breakfast in my kitchen, promising me forever. Every word he'd said to me suddenly sounded like a rehearsed line in a play I hadn't agreed to be in. "He's been living 2 lives," I murmured, "and we've been the supporting cast." Then something shifted in me. I looked at Hannah, not as the friend who'd unknowingly betrayed me, but as the only other person who truly understood what it felt like to be fooled by the same man. Her tears had stopped. Now there was just a spark of anger, faint but real. "He lied to both of us," I said. "So maybe it's time he learns what honesty feels like, publicly." Her head snapped up, meeting my eyes. "What are you thinking?" she asked carefully. I leaned back, my voice low but steady. "If he wanted 2 women, maybe it's time we let him see what 2 women working together can do." We sat there for what felt like hours, the afternoon light sliding across the room as if marking time for us. The wine from last night still sat half-finished on the counter, a bitter reminder of how quickly joy can curdle. I kept replaying every conversation with Daniel, every "I love you," every fake apology I hadn't realized was fake. Hannah watched me, nervous, as if I might break at any moment. But I wasn't breaking. I was recalculating. Revenge, I was learning, didn't always scream. Sometimes it whispered. I looked at Hannah and felt something I didn't expect. Clarity. "We can't just walk away," I said. "He doesn't get to leave 2 broken women behind and move on like nothing happened." She nodded, her jaw tightening, that first spark of defiance lighting her face. "So what do we do?" she asked. I smiled, slow and deliberate. "We make him believe he's still in control," I said. "Then we take it from him, publicly." Her lips parted, a mix of fear and curiosity. "You mean, trap him?" "Something like that," I said, He's clever, but not clever enough to see us coming. We started sketching it out between gulps of lukewarm coffee and raw determination. Every detail mattered: the timing, the place, the tone of her voice when she called him next. Hannah hesitated once, asking if revenge made us any better than him. "No," I said softly, "but it'll make us free." And as the plan began to take shape, I realized something new. I wasn't just getting even. I was taking back my narrative. By Friday, the plan was airtight, or as close as two women running on heartbreak could make it. Daniel thought he was meeting Hannah for dinner at his favorite restaurant, that pretentious little place with overpriced wine and dim lighting he always said felt romantic. I let him believe it. In fact, I even helped him pick his outfit that morning, pretending everything was normal. I smiled when he kissed my cheek before leaving, the same cheek he'd lied to 100 times. It was almost poetic, helping him walk straight into his own undoing. Hannah texted me from the restaurant, nerves spilling through every message. "He's here. He ordered your favorite dish. He has no idea." I sat in my car around the corner, watching the rain bead on the windshield, my heartbeat loud in my ears. I didn't feel guilt, just anticipation. This wasn't chaos anymore, it was choreography. I waited until her signal came. Now. Then I walked in, every step deliberate, every breath a small reclaiming of power he'd stolen. The place smelled like garlic butter and expensive wine, but all I could taste was adrenaline. Hannah was there, wearing the necklace he'd given her, the same one he'd told me he'd lost on a trip. Perfect. She looked up at him with a sweetness that made my skin crawl, playing her role flawlessly. I stopped right beside their table. "You mean the crazy ex who pays your rent and washes your clothes?" I said, voice steady, slicing through the room like glass. And just like that, his face drained of color. The sound in the restaurant seemed to vanish. Forks paused midair, a few heads turned, the soft hum of conversation replaced by something tighter: curiosity, disbelief, maybe pity. Daniel blinked, his jaw twitching, trying to piece together which version of his life had just crashed into the other. "Olivia, what are you doing here?" he stammered. I tilted my head, feigning innocence. "Having dinner with my boyfriend," I said. Then, after a pause, "Oh wait, our boyfriend." Hannah didn't miss a beat. "Don't you dare say I'm crazy now," she said, her voice trembling but loud enough to echo across the room. The waiter froze nearby, holding a tray like he wished he could disappear. Daniel's mouth opened and closed, words scrambling for cover. "This isn't what it looks like," he said. I almost laughed. "No, Daniel," I replied softly. "It's exactly what it looks like." Every eye in the place was on us, the whole performance captured in whispers and camera flashes. It was beautiful in a way, his carefully curated life unraveling under candlelight. He stood up, reaching for me, desperate now. "Olivia, please, let's talk somewhere private." I took a small step back, savoring his panic. "We've been private long enough," I said. "You built this mess in the dark. It's only fair that everyone gets to see it." Hannah crossed her arms, a faint, defiant smile playing on her lips. For the first time since that night in my apartment, I saw strength in her eyes, not shame. I turned toward the exit, my pulse steady. "Dinner's over," I said, "but your lesson's just getting started." Hannah and I walked out side by side, the air outside heavy with rain and victory. My hands were trembling, but not from fear, more like the aftershock of power rediscovered. Behind us, I could hear Daniel's voice calling my name, but I didn't turn back. For once, I didn't need to. Every step toward the car felt like peeling off a layer of humiliation I hadn't realized I'd been wearing. By the time we reached the street, I felt lighter, dangerously lighter. We sat in my car, the silence between us strangely peaceful. Hannah exhaled, then laughed, a shaky, disbelieving sound that cracked the tension wide open. "I can't believe we just did that," she said. "Neither can I replied. "But I'm glad we did." The windshield was fogged, our reflections blurred, but I could still see it in her eyes, relief mixed with a quiet rage that matched my own. We'd been victims together. Now, we were something else entirely. Still, a part of me wasn't done. Watching him panic in that restaurant had been satisfying, but it wasn't justice. It was just the opening act. He'd built his whole world on lies, and I wanted to see what happened when that world finally collapsed. Hannah turned to me. "You're not finished, are you?" she asked softly. I shook my head. "Not yet," I said. "He's going to feel this everywhere. Work, pride, reputation. It's time Daniel Collins met the truth he sold to everyone else." By Monday morning, the adrenaline had cooled into something colder, steadier, like precision. I'd replayed every detail of that dinner, every stammer and half-truth Daniel tried to spit out. But embarrassment wasn't enough. He'd humiliated 2 women. It felt only fair the world got a glimpse of who he really was. I sat at my desk with a cup of coffee gone lukewarm, fingers hovering over my laptop keys. The hum of the city outside felt like a countdown. Then I started typing. I drafted the email carefully, clean, polite, almost professional. No rants, no emotion, just facts and evidence, screenshots of his messages, photos from Hannah's phone, a short note at the end. Perhaps the man handling client accounts shouldn't be lying to everyone in his life. I attached the files and read it one more time, my pulse steady. Then I hit send. The click was soft, but it sounded final, like a door shutting for good. The next day, chaos unfolded exactly as I'd pictured it. Daniel's boss called him in. Clients started whispering. By noon, his charm had worn off faster than cheap cologne. My phone buzzed nonstop. Hannah sending updates, coworkers sharing gossip. I should have felt guilty maybe, but I didn't. Instead, I felt clean. Revenge wasn't sweet. It was clarifying. And as much as I told myself it was over, I knew he wouldn't let it end like that. Not yet. It didn't take long. By late afternoon, there was a knock at my door. Loud, impatient, familiar. For a moment, I considered not answering, but curiosity won. When I opened it, Daniel was standing there, his face twisted with fury and fear. His tie was loose, his eyes bloodshot, like he hadn't slept since that night. "You destroyed me," he shouted before I could even speak. I didn't flinch. "No, Daniel," I said calmly. "You destroyed yourself. I just handed you the mirror." He stormed past me, pacing like a caged animal. "Do you have any idea what you've done? My job, my reputation?" "Your facade," I cut in. "You mean your facade." He glared at me, the kind of look that once used to make me shrink. Not anymore. "You're vindictive," he spat. I almost smiled. "No," I said softly. "I'm just done being the fool in your story." He froze, blinking, as if the sentence had landed somewhere he didn't expect it to. For once, he didn't have a comeback. He started to speak again, but I was already walking toward the door. "We're done," I said, opening it wide. "You can leave now." He hesitated, his pride catching up to his panic. "You'll regret this," he said finally, his voice shaking with false certainty. I met his eyes, unbothered. "Maybe," I said, "but at least I'll regret it on my own terms." And then, for the first time in years, I closed the door on him, literally and figuratively. Behind it, I exhaled, the silence wrapping around me like peace earned, not given. After he left, I stood there for a long time, listening to the faint echo of his footsteps fade down the hall. The apartment was still, almost too quiet, the kind of silence that demands you breathe differently. My reflection in the window looked like a stranger, someone stronger, maybe a little colder. I poured myself a glass of wine, the same bottle from that night with Hannah, and watched the city lights flicker below. For the first time in months, the sound of my own heartbeat didn't scare me. It sounded like closure. But closure, I realized, wasn't about ending something. It was about reclaiming it. Every lie he'd told me had chipped away at who I was, and now I was piecing myself back together, one deliberate breath at a time. Hannah texted me later that night. "You okay?" I typed back, "Better than okay." We both knew what that meant. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about us, two women who refused to be casualties of the same deception. I didn't celebrate, not really. Instead, I cleaned the kitchen, folded laundry, did all the ordinary things that make life feel stable again. But under it all, there was this steady hum, freedom. The kind that doesn't shout, just exists quietly, persistently. I knew Daniel would disappear for a while, licking his wounds and blaming the world. And I also knew that somewhere down the line I'd see his name again, attached to another mistake. But by then, it wouldn't matter. I was already turning the page. Weeks passed, and life began to find a rhythm again. The anger that once kept me awake at night slowly turned into something else, clarity, maybe even gratitude. Hannah and I started meeting for coffee every weekend, the same way we used to, but with a different kind of honesty between us. There were no secrets left, just shared lessons and the occasional laugh that made everything feel lighter. We talked about work, travel, and the kind of love we might actually deserve next time. It felt like healing, one cappuccino at a time. One afternoon, she looked at me across the cafe table, her eyes softer than they'd been in months. "I still can't believe we survived that," she said with a half smile. I laughed. "We didn't just survive it, we outsmarted it." She shook her head, smiling for real this time. "You know, I almost miss our old drama-free lives." I raised an eyebrow. "Please, Hannah, we were never drama-free. We just hadn't met his level yet." For the first time, the memory of Daniel didn't sting. It just felt irrelevant. We started joking about turning our story into something more. A blog, a podcast, maybe even a warning manual. "We could call it 2 Lies and a Lesson," she said one day, grinning. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. "You realize that makes us sound like relationship detectives." She shrugged. "Maybe we are." There was something beautiful in that laughter, in knowing we'd turned pain into partnership. And even though I'd finally stopped thinking about Daniel, part of me wondered what would happen if he ever tried to crawl back. Hannah asked me one day, "What if he shows up again?" Men like that don't usually stay gone. I smiled into my cup, watching the swirl of coffee settle. "If he does, I'll remind him I already dated his biggest regret." She laughed, but there was pride in her laughter, like we'd both graduated from some emotional battlefield with scars that told a better story than the war itself. We weren't bitter anymore, just wiser. Maybe a little dangerous too, in the best possible way. It's strange how healing sneaks up on you. One morning you wake up and realize the ache is gone. The space he used to take up in your head has been rented out to peace. I started running again, painting, cooking meals for myself without setting an extra plate. Life was still ordinary, but it finally felt like mine. Hannah and I kept our Saturday coffees, always with the same toast at the end. To the lessons we didn't ask for, but needed anyway. It became our ritual, our inside joke, our quiet badge of survival. Sometimes, when I walked past couples on the street, I'd catch myself wondering if they knew how fragile trust could be. Not in a cynical way, just aware. I didn't envy them. I hoped they'd never learn it the hard way. The truth was, Daniel had given me something he never meant to. Clarity about what I would and wouldn't tolerate ever again. As we packed up our things one sunny afternoon, Hannah nudged me with a grin. "Think we're officially over it?" she asked. I smiled back. Almost. But I think there's one last thing to do. That one last thing had been sitting quietly in the back of my mind, waiting for the right moment. I didn't need more confrontation, just closure with flair. Life had moved on, yes, but there's something poetic about justice arriving on its own time. Hannah agreed. "We don't chase it," she said one day. "We let it come to us." And she was right. Revenge wasn't a project anymore. It was a consequence. All we had to do was keep living, keep laughing, and wait for the universe to hand us the cue. Weeks later, the cue arrived in the form of a white envelope. Inside was an invitation, Daniel's engagement party. I almost laughed out loud. The irony was exquisite. He'd found someone new, someone from his office, according to the card. I showed it to Hannah, who raised one eyebrow, then the other. "Do we go?" she asked, half teasing. I grinned. Oh no, we don't attend. We RSVP in a different way. It was decided right then. Our final act wouldn't need our presence, just our precision. That night we opened our laptops, the glow from the screens lighting the room like stage lights before a performance. The same screenshots that had shattered his double life months ago were still safely stored in a folder titled, For Later. Hannah smirked. Later's now, she said. I clicked send. No message, no signature, just truth delivered to the woman who needed it most. As the email disappeared into the void, I leaned back, exhaling. Closure, I said. And a little encore. Hannah clinked her glass against mine. To 2 lies, she said, and 1 unforgettable lesson. A month later, Hannah and I met at our favorite rooftop cafe, the one with fairy lights strung across the railings and the city glittering below. It had become our little sanctuary, proof that endings can be beautiful when they're ours to write. I took a sip of wine, feeling that quiet satisfaction that doesn't need applause. Hannah scrolled through her phone, then looked up at me with a sly smile. She got it, she said. Opened the email this morning. My heart didn't race this time. It just settled. The universe had a perfect sense of timing. She'll believe it? Hannah asked, eyes curious, almost gentle. I smiled. She won't have to. She'll see it. We both knew what that meant. Screenshots don't lie, and Daniel's talent for deceit had an expiration date. Somewhere across town, his new facade was already starting to crack. I imagined the look on his face when the truth found him again, the disbelief, the denial, the familiar panic. But this time, it wasn't my problem to fix. It was never going to be again. Justice had simply changed hands. We sat in silence for a while, watching the skyline turn gold and pink as the sun dipped behind the buildings. Hannah raised her glass first. To lessons learned, she said. I lifted mine to meet hers. To the man who thought he could love 2 lies, I added. Our glasses clinked, a soft sound against the hum of the city. Somewhere below, life carried on. Traffic, laughter, music. But up here, it was peaceful. He had his ending. We had our freedom. And for the first time, I didn't want revenge anymore. I'd already won.